Hello everyone and welcome back. I am Dr. Supradip Das, Assistant Professor at the Department of Design, IIT Guwahati. And this is the 19th lecture of the course Introduction to Toy Design. In this lecture, we will move beyond thinking of toys as isolated objects. We will begin by understanding the environment as a key design context. This includes legal, social, economic, and physical forces that shape toy design decisions. We will then shift focus from objects to people. We will also discuss the important distinction between consumer and customer. Finally, we will introduce user studies as a practical design tool. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to think about toy design more holistically. You should be able to recognize how environment shapes what can and cannot be designed. You will be able to identify different users involved in toys' life cycle and understand how their needs and power differ. You will clearly understand the distinction between the consumer and customer and why this difference is critical in real-world toy design. Most importantly, you should leave with a mindset that toy design is about balancing contexts, users, and decisions, not just form and play. When we say environment in toy design, we are not talking about nature or sustainability alone. We are talking about all the external forces that shape a toy before a child ever touches it. These forces exist outside the toy, but they decide what the toy can be. Some are visible, like price or space. Others are invisible, like laws, norms, or expectations. As designers, we often start with form and play, but environment silently sets the boundaries. You can have the most playful idea, but if the environment rejects it, the toy fails. Environment answers questions like where will this toy exist? Who will allow it? Who will resist it? What limits does it face? Understanding the environment helps designers design smarter, not harder. It turns constraints into design inputs instead of design failures. The legal environment is one of the strongest forces shaping toy design. Unlike adult products, toys are legally treated as high-risk objects. They must comply with strict safety standards because children explore with their bodies. Standards like BIS, ASTM F963 and EN71 regulate size, materials, sound, toxicity, and mechanisms. These rules decide whether a toy can exist in a market at all. A toy designed for Europe may fail Indian regulations, not because it's bad, but because standards differ. For example, acceptable materials, warnings, or testing protocols may not match. Legal environments affect form, finish, packaging, and even play mechanics. They also influence cost and manufacturing decisions. Good designers don't treat safety as an afterthought. They design with regulations in mind early in the process. Compliance is not a barrier to creativity, it is a design framework. The social environment shapes how toys are perceived, accepted, and valued. A toy does not enter a neutral world, it enters a culture. Culture beliefs influence what is considered appropriate play. Gender norms affect who a toy is meant for, even if designers don't intended it. Parenting styles influence buying decisions. Some value learning, others value free play. In some cultures, toys are tools for education. In others, toys are spaces for imagination and rest. The same toy can be celebrated in one context and rejected in another. Even color, character, or theme choices carry cultural meaning. Therefore, designers must ask, what does this toy signal socially? What values does it reinforce or challenge? Ignoring social context can lead to rejection, backlash, or misuse. The economic environment decides who gets access to play. A toy does not exist independently of affordability. Designing a 300 rupees toy and a 3000 rupees toy involves entirely different choices. Materials change, manufacturing methods change, durability expectations change, even play complexity may change. Economic context also includes where the toy will be sold: urban malls, online platforms, or local markets. Scale also matters. Mass production versus small batch production will involve different manufacturing techniques, number of parts involved, and quality standards that can be maintained. And beyond all, cost to scale relation. Designers must understand cost not as a limitation but as a strategy. Economic constraints force clarity in design priorities. What is essential? What can be removed without harming play? Good toy design balances joy with feasibility. The physical environment defines how and where play happens. A toy designed for an open courtyard behaves very differently in a small apartment. Space availability affects size, movement, and noise. Indoor toys need to respect furniture, storage, and shared living. Outdoor toys must handle dust, heat, moisture, and rough use. Travel toys need to be compact and easy to carry. Climate also matters. Materials react differently to humidity and temperature. Noise tolerance changes across spaces like homes, schools, and hospitals. Designers must imagine the toy in use, not just in isolation. Where will it be stored and how? Who will clean it? What happens when it breaks? Physical environment grounds play in real life. Ignoring it leads to toys that are beautiful but unused. The physical environment also has four layers. First, the structural layer, which is permanent or fixed. The structural layer is the foundational, permanent, or hard components of the play environment. In toy design, this refers to the core structure, main base, or permanent components of a toy that rarely change. Designers should design robust, durable, and foundational pieces that support other elements. For example, the solid wooden base of a train set, a permanent plastic housing for an electronic toy, or a sturdy, non-foldable play table. Here is a design that contains the side panels, which are the structural layers of the modular playhouse toy. Second, the semi-permanent layer, which is fixed but can be moved or changed. The semi-permanent layer includes components that are not fixed but are designed to last for a long period. In toy design, this refers to the modular parts or interchangeable parts or customizable elements that allow users to change the form of the toy. Designers should focus on functionality, adaptability, using components that allow changing from one configuration to another with durable materials. For example, magnetic tracks in a marble run, furniture in a dollhouse, or building block sets from Lego that can be reconfigured but remain set in a specific build structure. The same playhouse design contains the connecting rods, which are the reconfigurable parts of the modular playhouse toy. Kids can rearrange and build their structure as they need. Third, the temporary layer, which includes elements that can be added or removed frequently. The elements on the temporary layer are used for a short duration and frequently changed or moved. In toy design, the temporary layer focuses on variety, mobility, and fostering imaginative scenarios that shift quickly. Designers should consider lighter, flexible, or recyclable materials that allow easy assembly, portability, and quick shifting for the temporary layer. For example, dress-up clothes, action figures that are moved around in a play, props in a pretend playset like a toy kitchen's food items, or stickers to be attached in a toy. Here, the playhouse design contains a flexible cover like tent, which can be attached to or detached from the playhouse. It offers children a fun, personal space for imaginative play, both indoor and outdoor. Fourth, the ephemeral layer, which includes elements that change instantly. The elements on the ephemeral layer consist of sensory-rich, fleeting interactions allowing the creation and destruction of structures instantly in toys that create ephemeral visual experiences. Designers should consider natural elements such as water, light, wind, shadow, etc., or natural materials that can be used to create short-lived or evanescent play that leaves little to no trace behind. For example, a sand tray, water table, kinetic sand, drawing on a magic slate, using shadows, or utilizing recycled cardboards, boxes that are drawn on and then recycled. Here, the modular playhouse design provides a blank canvas for the child's imagination, promoting open-ended play rather than a fixed outcome. It allows fleeting interactions through dramatic play, such as pretend play as a shopkeeper. Let's begin with the situation, not the toy. We are designing for Indian children aged 4 to 6. The context is travel, long journey by train, bus, car, or flight. These journeys are often noisy, crowded, and unpredictable. Children get restless, bored, and overstimulated. And parents want children to stay engaged without screens. At this age, children are rapidly developing vocabulary, sentence structure, and storytelling. Travel offers rich stimuli, but it is rarely designed for learning. So the design opportunity is not entertainment alone. It is supporting language development through play. Within real travel constraints, we are not designing for classrooms. We are designing for movement, waiting, interruptions, and shared spaces. Now look at the legal environment. This toy will be used in public and handled independently by young children. So safety is non-negotiable. It can have no small parts, sharp edges, or toxic materials. This immediately limits form, material, and construction. Next, the social environment. Travel spaces are shared with strangers. Parents are sensitive to noise and disruptions. A toy that makes sound or demands attention will be quickly taken away. Also, Indian households are often multilingual. So instead of fixed language instruction, the toy must allow flexible language use or be sensitive to region-specific dialects or rules. Then comes the economic environment. This is not a premium educational product bought after research. It may be purchased quickly before or during travel. Parents expect value and reusability. This pushes the design towards simplicity, durability, and repeated play. Finally, the physical environment. Space is limited. Play is interrupted constantly. Loose parts get lost. So the toy must be compact, self-contained, easy to store, and easy to pause and resume. What's important here is this: we have not designed a toy yet. We have designed the conditions under which a toy can succeed. The design decisions emerge because of the environment, not despite it. This is what context-aware toy design looks like. One possible design response could be a travel storytelling kit. The kit uses images related to travel, people, places, and actions. Children pick a card and describe what they see. They can make up stories, name objects, or form sentences. The toy does not speak. The child speaks. This supports vocabulary, sentence building, and confidence. There are no loose parts, no batteries, and no loud sounds. Parents see learning. Children experience play. This is not the only solution. It is one outcome shaped by environment. Different designers might arrive at different toys, but the thinking process remains the same. Another possible design response could be a shadow puppet card set. The card set uses silhouettes designed for shadow play. Children pick a card and explore independently or with parents what is instructed on the card. They can make shapes using a natural light source, a torch, or a mobile light. The toy is not a construction toy. However, the child creates. This activity fosters creativity with the ephemeral layer of the physical environment, that is, shadow. For children, handling and manipulating shadow puppets improves dexterity, hand-eye coordination, concentration, spatial awareness, and confidence. And parents find shadow puppetry a rewarding tool to seamlessly combine teaching principles of light, shadow, and storytelling. This is not a mere fun toy. This is an educational toy that teaches implicitly through environment. Designers should consider different environmental aspects to make appropriate toys. Now that we understand the environment, let us try to understand the user. When we say user in toy design, we often instinctively think of the child. But unfortunately, toys do not exist in a one-to-one relationship with children. They move through homes, schools, shops, and systems. Each of these spaces introduce other users. A toy is touched, judged, stored, purchased, and regulated by people who never play with it. These users influence whether the toy is bought, allowed, or rejected. So in toy design, the user is not a single person. It is a network. If we design only for the child, we may create a joyful object that never reaches them. If we design only for adults, we may create a toy that looks educational but is never played with. Good toy design understands who interacts with the toy at different stages. This shift from the user to users is essential for real-world success. The principal user in toy design is the child. This is the person the toy is primarily meant for. But as we have understood in much detail during the previous modules, even within the child, there is enormous variation. Age affects motor skills, attention span, language, and imagination. Ability includes physical, cognitive, emotional, and sensory differences. Play style varies. Some children prefer quiet play, while others seek movement or social play. A toy designed for a 4-year-old will not work the same way for a 6-year-old. A toy designed for one type of learner may exclude another. So designing for the principal user is not about designing for children in general. It is about designing a specific children in specific contexts. Understanding the principal user requires observation, not assumption. The child's experience of the toy must remain central but not isolated. The secondary users are the adults closest to the child. These include parents, caregivers, and teachers. They may not play with the toy, but they control access to it. Secondary users care deeply about safety. They look for age appropriateness, durability, and trustworthiness. They also care about learning value, sometimes more than play value. Practical concerns also matter here. Where will the toy be stored? How easy it to clean or manage? How much does it cost? A toy that excites the child but irritates the adult will slowly disappear. It may be lost, kept away, or saved for later. Designing for secondary users is about permission and longevity. A good toy earns adult trust without sacrificing child joy. The tertiary users are often invisible to designers but extremely powerful. These includes retailers, educators, and regulatory bodies. They may never touch the toy, but they decide whether it exists in the market. Retailers care about shelf appeal, packaging, price point, and category fit. Educators look for curriculum alignment, classroom usability, and group play potential. And regulatory bodies focus on compliance, safety, and standards. A toy that fails regulations will never reach the shelf. A toy that retailers don't understand will not stocked. A toy that educators cannot justify will not enter learning spaces. These users shape how toys are framed, described, and distributed. Ignoring tertiary users often leads to market failure, not design failure. The last and most important user group is lead users. The term lead user was coined in 1986 by Erich von Hippel, a professor at the MIT Solon School of Management. He developed his concept to describe users who experience needs months or years ahead of the general market and gain significant benefit from creating their own solutions. There are three types of lead users specific to toy design. First, extreme needs user. Children with physical or cognitive challenges fall in this category. Second, passionate collectors. Adults or children with deep knowledge of specific toy categories are passionate collectors. Third, self-taught makers. Self-taught makers are those users who take toys apart to rebuild them or create their own. Now the question is, what is the role of the lead users in the toy design and development process? First, identifying latent needs. Lead users, particularly those with disabilities or unique extraordinary experiences, provide insights that traditional market research misses, leading to significantly higher innovation rates. Second, inclusive design. Children with disabilities act as crucial lead users, offering insights that results in toys that are more functional and accessible for a wider range of users, such as those with motor challenges like hemiplegic cerebral palsy. Third, prototyping and testing. Lead users are often involved early in the process, testing prototypes for safety, resilience, and engagement. Fourth, coping strategies. Coping strategies for individuals with disabilities involve proactive, emotion-focused, and social approaches to manage stress, enhance quality of life, and foster resilience. Users with disabilities often employ radical alternatives to standard consumer behavior, offering fresh perspective for radical product alternatives as a coping strategy. Now let us understand an interesting aspect: conflicts between users. Conflict between users are not exceptions in toy design. They are the norm. Different users want different things from the same object. A child may want to play with slime, sand, or paint. The parent may worry about mess, cleaning, and supervision. The joy of play clashes with the inconvenience of maintenance. A designer may want to introduce implicit learning that happens naturally through play. But parents often look for visible, measurable outcomes. They want to see letters, numbers, or skills being taught explicitly. Retailers may push for familiar, popular formats that sell quickly. These often rely on plastic materials, bright colors, and proven formulas. At the same time, a brand's values or secondary users may prefer natural materials or sustainable choices. None of these perspectives is wrong. They simply come from different positions of power and responsibility. The role of the designer is not to pick a side. It is to recognize these tensions and respond thoughtfully. Good toy design finds workable balances, not perfect solutions. One helpful way to think about users is an ecosystem. At the center is the child, the principal user. The closest to them are secondary users, parents, caregivers, and teachers. Beyond that are tertiary users, retailers, educators, and regulators. Each layer influences the toy in a different way. The closer to the user is to the child, the more emotional the influence. The further away, the more structural the influence. Design decisions repel outward. Changing one aspect of the toy affects multiple users. Volume, materials, size, messaging, nothing is neutral. Mapping users visually helps designers anticipate tension early. It prevents designing in isolation. This approach shifts toy design from object making to system thinking. The most important takeaway from this section is simple but powerful. You are never designing for only one user. Every design decision privileges someone and inconveniences someone else. Good toy design does not aim for perfection. It aims for balance. Successful toys create joy for children, trust for adults, and clarity for systems. They acknowledge conflict instead of pretending it does not exist. They negotiate rather than dominate. As designers, your job is not to choose one user and ignore the rest. Your job is to understand relationships between users. This is what makes toy design complex and meaningful. I hope it is now clear that the consumer of our products is different from the customer. In toy design, the consumer is usually the child, the one who plays. But the customer is most often the parent or a family member or a friend's parent. In fact, in India, specifically, a majority of the toys are bought for gifting. This separation is critical. The person who uses the toy is often not the person who buys it. And in gifting scenarios, the buyer may not even know the child well. As a result, purchase decisions rely heavily on signals. Adults look for visceral indicators of age appropriateness, safety, and value. They rely on packaging, labels, and brand trust rather than first-hand play experience. The child's criteria are experiential. Is it fun? Can I explore it? The customer's criteria are social and symbolic. Is this appropriate? Is this good enough to gift? The toy must communicate meaning quickly, often from a shelf. This makes toy design unique. Designers are not only designing play, they are designing reassurance, legitimacy, and social acceptability. Ignoring the customer leads to toys that are loved by children but never purchased. Successful toy design holds both the consumer and the customer in view. So, what can we do if the customer rejects the toy? Instead of changing the object itself, we can change how the toy is framed, often through packaging and communication. We can add learning claims, age markers, and developmental language. For example, construction toys that rely on free play are reframed as STEM or skill building tools. Pretend play toys are positioned as supporting empathy or social development. The play remains the same, but the story around the play changes. Affordances are also adjusted. Clear prompts, visual cues, or structured entry points reassure parents. They signal intention without fully scripting play. This is where we see a shift from designing only the object to designing the object plus narrative. From designing play to designing plus justification. The toy industry teaches us that acceptance is often designed, not accidental. Now that we understand the different uses of our toys, it becomes obvious why user studies are essential in toy design. Children especially rarely explain their needs. Clearly, young children especially cannot verbalize frustration, confusion, or boredom accurately. They communicate primarily through action, not language. If we ask children what they want, we often get unreliable answers. They may say what they think adults want to hear, or they may lack the vocabulary to explain their experience. This is why observation of the primary user is more valuable than interviews in toy design. What a child does with a toy tells us more than what they say about it. Play reveals comfort, curiosity, confusion, and resistance. In toy design, we rarely study only one type of user. Different users reveal different kinds of insights. Children show us how play actually unfolds. They reveal attention spans, preferences, and moments of delight or frustration. Their behavior helps us understand whether a toy invites or blocks play. Parents reveal decision-making logic. They help us understand what makes a toy acceptable, rejectable, or trustworthy. Their insights are critical for adoption and longevity. Educators bring another lens. They help align toys with learning goals, developmental stages, or classroom realities. Studying multiple users help designers balance play, approval, and purpose. User studies in toy design do not have to be complex or academic. They are often simple, direct, and hands-on. Observation involves quietly watching how children engage with the toy. Playtesting allows designers to see how prototypes perform in real conditions. Contextual inquiry looks at where and how play happens at home, at school, or while traveling. Co-play sessions involve adults or peers playing alongside children. These sessions reveal social dynamics, guidance, and intervention patterns. Each method offers a different angle on the same toy. The goal is not data collection for its own sake. The goal is insight that informs better design decisions. When designers observe play, they are not judging performance. They are looking for patterns. How does play begin? What does the child understand? What to do without explanation? Where does play break down? Is there any confusion, frustration, or loss of interest? What actions are repeated again and again? These often indicate joy, comfort, and mastery. What parts of the toy are ignored entirely? Ignored elements may be unnecessary or poorly communicated. These observations reveal mismatches between intention and experience. They show designers where the toy succeeds and where it fails silently. For example, during observation, children repeatedly use the toy differently from its intended function. This is not wrong behavior. It is a design signal. The insight here is an affordance mismatch. The toy suggests one action but invites another. The design response is not to correct the child, it is to correct the design. The form may be adjusted to clarify use. Feedback may be added to reinforce interaction. Observation leads directly to design improvement. User studies with children require strong ethical awareness. Children are not test subjects, they are participants. Consent must always be obtained from parents or guardians. Children should also feel comfortable and willing to participate. Observation should be non-intrusive. Designers should avoid directing, correcting, or controlling play unnecessarily. Respecting child dignity is critical. We don't mock, label, or judge children's behavior. We observe with empathy and care. Ethical practice builds trust, and trust leads to more authentic insights and better design outcomes. Let's step back and look at the full picture. Toy design does not begin with form or features. It begins with context. The environment shapes what is possible and permissible. Legal, social, economic, and physical forces create boundaries. These constraints are not limitations. They are design inputs. Users shape how the toy is experienced. Children, parents, educators, and systems interact with the toy differently. Each relationship influences the life of the toy, and every toy exists at the interaction of multiple forces. Play value gives the toy meaning for the child. Safety ensures trust and responsibility. Market realities decide whether the toy reaches people. Cultural context shapes how the toy is understood and accepted. Focusing on only one of these creates imbalance. Great play without safety fails. Great safety without play is ignored. Good toy design is not about choosing one priority. It is about balancing many things thoughtfully. Designers who understand these create toys that are built to last. See you in the next lecture. Till then, have a playful time.